Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching the Hexy Beast. And on today's episode we're going to be doing a quick review of this game right here, Spirit Island. Anyway, let's get it to the table. The first thing you're going to do in Spirit Island is choose one of your spirits, and you're also going to choose a map tile. So for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to go with Vital Strength of the Earth. So let's show you what they do. Okay, so first you'll have this little bit which will give you a bit of the lore. Then this will tell you how to set it up on the map. As well as that, each character gives you a little blurb about how they play and will give you an idea of how their powers work. So after looking through all this, I think we should go with Vital Strength of the Earth. As well as that, I think we're going to go with map tile. We're going to go with C. Okay. Each of them are different, and I'll explain how they set up based on these icons once we get into that part of the video. Now that we've chosen the character, it's time to set them up. So first we're going to grab the starting cards, which each have a back that matches your character, and we're going to take the reminder tokens. As well as that, we're going to check the setup instructions on our player. So in this case, we're told to put 3 presents on the starting board, 2 in the highest numbered mountain and 1 in the highest numbered jungle. So let's do that now. So we're going to get 2 in the highest numbered mountain. So we take 2 of our presents, stack them on top of each other, lay them in the mountain, and 1 in the highest numbered jungle, which if you look at the board in this case is this number 4 over here. So that's our main starting for our character, but also we need to set up the map. And as you can see, there's little icons right here telling us what pieces that we need to put on the board. So let's do that now. So as if by magic, it's all done. Now let's move on how to set up the rest of the board. Okay, it's now time to set up this board. So the first thing we do, because we're playing a single player game, as you can see by here, we're going to place 4 fear in the top half of this fear pool. And then we're basically going to be setting up our decks. But first we're going to add 5 blight to this space by here. So now that we've got 5 blight here, basically now what our job would be, normally we would take one of these blight cards with us, but because it's our first game, we're not going to bother. So right now we're just going to place the 5 by here. After that, it's then time to set up the fear deck. And the way we do this is we take these little dividers that come with the game, and we shuffle this fear deck, and then for each tier, we're basically going to draw 3 cards. So we're going to have 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to put this on top. It's tail level 3 divider. And then we're going to take another 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to place them on top here with this level 2 divider. And then 1, 2, 3 on the top. This is basically how we build our fear deck. So now that this fear deck is complete, we're going to place it on this spot of the board. Okay, so now we've got blight, fear, and the fear pool set up. Okay, what's left? We have the explore deck. I'm going to show you how to do this now. Okay, to set up the explore deck, we're going to take these explore cards mark 1, these explore cards mark 2, and these explore cards mark 3. Lay them into 3 decks. Shuffle them first, obviously. Take 1 off the top. We're not going to use these in the game, so we're basically going to have a deck of 12 cards. We're then going to shuffle 1, shuffle 2, and shuffle 3. Then, what we're going to do is we're going to place 2 on top of 3, and 1 on top of 2. And once we've done that, we're just going to place it in this spot on the board. Then, what we're going to do is we're going to shuffle this power deck and this power deck and place them next to the board with enough space for discard piles by the sides of them. Now, let's finish off setting up our player. And to do this, we're going to lay out all the remaining blue discs past this first space here on their tracks. This will determine how much power you have and how many cards you can use per turn. Whoosh, all done. Now, it's time to actually get on with starting the game. Okay, the first thing we do is explore the first card of the explore deck. And as you can see, this time it's the jungle. So let me show you what happens. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, because we flipped over this jungles card, it means that we're going to explore in the jungles. And as long as there's an invader either adjacent or on the space that you're planning to explore in, then the players shall explore. So in this case, we're going to take one of these explorers and put them in the jungle, and another one and put them in this jungle, because both jungle spaces on this board are valid placement. Okay, so the objective of Spirit Island is to clear the invaders from the board. So basically, there's a couple of ways this can happen. You can either deplete the fear deck to win, or you can wipe out, depending on your stage, all the explorers, all the villages, and all the towns. But as we move through this fear deck, you'll notice that once we reach terror level 2, all we have to do is make sure that we have no villages or no towns, so the explorers don't factor into our victory condition. We're going to be doing this by playing powers and then eventually causing things to happen on the board. So now's a good time to talk about the pieces on the board. So we have the Han, which are on our side. These have 2 attack and 2 defense. Then we have the explorers, which only have 1 attack and 1 defense. Then we have the villagers, which have 2 attack and 2 defense. Then we have the towns, which have 3 attack and 3 defense. So turns work in a few phases that I'll now go through. The first part of a phase would be to choose one of your growth powers. And right now, I think the best thing we could do would be this power here, which would be to add a presence at range 1 and gain 2 energy. So let's do that now. Okay, so because we chose the third growth power here, it means that we're going to place 1 presence at 1 range, and we're also going to get 2 energy. So I think we should place this presence so that we have a sacred site in jungle number 4. Okay, so we've done our placing presence. Now we're going to gain 2 energy. So these are the energy tokens. So now we've got our presence energy and our growth section is done. Now it's time to choose cards and play powers. Before we start playing cards, we need to gain the energy represented on our board. So we're going to add another 3 energy there. Okay, so playing cards in this game is a little different to most games in the fact that they come at different times of the turn. So each card will have a speed stat. So the red cards with a bird on them are fast cards, and the blue cards with a turtle on them are slow cards. The main difference is that the red cards will be played before the enemy phase, and the blue cards will be played after. So for our turn today, I think the best thing we could do right now is use this Year of Perfect Stillness, which will cost us 3 energy, and invaders will be able to skip all actions in the target land this turn. So let's prep that one ready for that phase of the turn. So now that we've chosen and paid for our powers, it's time to use the red powers. So this one will mean that we get to skip all actions in target land turn. So let's pay for it. And then we're going to use one of our reminder tokens, after we put this over here, to remind us what part of the board we're going to have skipping actions. So based on our Explore deck, we know that this turn, nothing's going to get ravaged, but we know that there's going to be building in the jungles. So I think it's best that we cancel all actions in the jungle. And I'm going to show that I've targeted that land with that card by putting one of these reminder tokens on there. Now we're going to do the invader's turn, in which case we're not going to ravage. Then we're going to build in the jungles, which I'm going to show you now. Okay, so building is a very important part of Spirit Island. Basically, as long as there's an invader present in an area where we've been told to build, in this case it's been jungles, we will have to place one of these little villages. If there's already a village, we'll place one of these towns instead. So basically, if you remember, our power says that we skip all actions here, so he's not going to build here, but they are going to build here. Okay, so that's the build phase over. Let's see how we do the explore phase. Okay, when we explore, what we're going to do is we're going to turn over the top card of this explore deck. And as you can see, it's telling us to explore in the wetlands. So just like at the start of the game, we're going to move invaders into the wetlands on the board. Let's do this now. So as you can see, there is invaders in range of both wetland spaces. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one explorer and place one in this wetland space and one in this wetland space. Normally, in this part of the turn, we would actually be using our blue powers. But because we haven't actually played any blue powers, we are now going to the time passes phase, which is basically when everything will move one space to the left, ready for next turn. Now we know next turn that they're going to ravage in the jungles, and we'll go through that in a minute. Okay, so looking at the cards we got, the best thing we should probably do this turn would be to actually get a new card. However, if you look at the power, we can only place presents on a spot that already has it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the same power again. So we add a presence one space away and get 2 energy. So let's do that now. So I'm going to do this. So now we can still only play 1 card. But next turn when I upgrade, as you can see underneath here, I should be able to play 2. So let's see how this turn turns out, shall we? So now it's back to choosing and playing our cards. I think, because we've got the energy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this Guard the Healing Land, which is going to cost me 3. And I think, if you look here, the target land, and we got range 1, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to play this Rituals of Destruction. Also, you might notice this icon's down the side of the cards, and explain what they do pretty much instantly, because now's the time where it makes sense. Now would be a good time to talk about the innate powers. Basically, as you can see here, we've got these 2 icons, and this yellow icon, which would mean that once this turn, the target spirit may repeat any 1 power card with an energy cost of 1 or less. We're not going to be able to use it this turn, because both the power cards we've used cost 3. Also worth noting that we get 3 defense in every land with a sacred site. Anyway, let's go back to playing cards for this turn. So the first card we're going to play this turn is Guard the Healing Land, which allows us to move 1 blight and defend 4. I think I know exactly where I'm going to use this. So, we're going to remove 1 of these blight tokens, and we're going to defend 4. And to mark that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another one of these reminder markers on the board. Okay, now we've played all our red powers, it's now time for the enemy to do their thing. So basically, the first thing we're going to do is ravage in the jungles. So the enemies are going to ravage in the jungles. And because we've got a sacred site here, we're going to defend 3. So 2 plus 1 is 3, that's defended. And in this jungle, this guy's going to attack out a hand for 1, which isn't going to be enough to kill him, which means he's going to get to retaliate for 2, and he's going to kill off the explorer. Now it's time to build in the wetlands, so let's do that now. So because both of our wetland spaces have an explorer in them, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these village buildings, and we're going to place 1 in each of the zones where we're required to. So in this case, we're building in the wetlands. Now, we're going to explore. Say to explore, we're going to flip over this top card, and we're going to explore in the sand. Okay, so as you can see, we've got no invaders here. We've got no invaders here, but both spaces are actually in range for explorers. So we're going to take 1 explorer, place him here. Then we're going to take another explorer and place him here. Okay, now that we're done with the invader phase, it's time to move on to our blue powers. Okay, so the blue power we can use this turn is Rituals of Destruction, something I prepped earlier, which means in a target land with one of our Dahan, we can do 2 damage. If we have at least 3 Dahan, we could do an extra damage and 2 fear. I'll explain fear in my next turn. Okay, so we're going to do 2 damage, and we're going to do it based on the fact that the wetlands are going to be ravaging next turn. I think the best thing we could do to ensure our safety is for us to actually use the 2 damage on this space here. We can choose to assign the damage however we'd like, but I think I'd rather spend both damage on this building. So when we remove either the 2 building, once we remove one of the village buildings, or we remove one of the town buildings, we all get fear for each. So we get 1 fear for the village and 2 fear for the towns. So let's go talk about fear. Okay, so because we defeated one of the villagers, what we get to do is move 1 fear into this little space. If we were to move all 4 fear into this space at any point, we would take one of these fear cards from the top, which will then give us certain abilities in the enemy phase at the start. So also, when we advance time, is when we clean up the board. So for example, I'm going to turn my Dahan back around the right way, and I'm going to remove this reminder token. Now we're ready for our next turn. Okay, so now we're in a predicament where we don't really have enough cards to play. So I think the power we're going to have to use this time is going to have to be this one, which has reclaim and add a presence anywhere 2 spaces away on the board. So let's do that now. So we're going to reclaim our cards, which means take everything from our discard, put it back in our hand, and then we're going to add our presence. And because we can place it from 2 spaces in the board, I think I'm actually going to place it in this top jungle by here. So another growth power we could use would be to gain a power card and put 0 presence. And when we gain a power card, first of all, we got to choose whether we want them from these minor power deck or we want them from the major power deck. And the main difference is when you take a power from the minor power deck, you just add it to your hand. If you can add them from the major, you would also have to discard, well, get rid of one of the powers you already have. So, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to pick one of these minor powers. So first we take the 4 cards off the top. And then we have a look at what we got. So let's have a look here. So for the sakes, I am actually thinking, ooh, this is a good one. I'm going to take Encompassing Ward because it gives us 2 defense in every land where we have presence. So let's do that and add it to my hand. Any cards you didn't draft are put in a discard pile next to the power deck. So basically, we would just keep doing turns as I've just shown you. Don't forget to read your cards because your cards mean everything. Basically, and we're going to keep adding fear here to either run this down to the point that we remove all the fear and we gain a victory. So that's one of our victory conditions. Also, the victory condition, as I told you before, changes depending on the level. Also, if we were to have all of these on the board and need another one, we would lose. And if this Explore deck ran out, the invaders have colonized the island and we also lose. So, with all the gameplay spoken about, let's go back to the table where I'm going to tell you what I think of the game. Okay, so now we're back at my shelf. It's time for me to tell you what I think. And first of all, for aesthetics, I've given this one a 9. Mainly because I find the boards are extremely colourful. I really enjoy the way the game looks. I also think that everything's just really easy to see. You've also got the fact that I really like that they've taken a different artist for each spirit. So I also find the cards that belong to that spirit give the spirit a lot of personality as you play the game. I just think that's a really good thing. So for aesthetics, I've just easily got a 9. So now we're just going to move on to gameplay. And this is where the game really shines for me. I think that there's so much content in this game that even in this video, I've only just scratched the surface of the basic mode. I haven't tried using power progression. I haven't used the adversaries. There's also another load of scenarios in the box. I didn't even use a blight card. So obviously there's plenty of game here for the money. So I've decided to give this one a 9. It also has a very interesting gameplay loop. I like that, you know, you play red powers before the enemy phase and blue powers after. It really gives you the opportunity to forward plan for each turn based on the fact that you know what's going to ravage and what's going to build next time you're out. So I think it's just, as a game, it's just one of my favourite, mechanically it's just one of my favourite games at the moment. So now we're just going to move on to the accessibility features, which for me, there's a few little problems with the rulebook, to be honest. It's kind of one of those rulebooks where you need to start in the middle before you can understand the start of it. It wasn't a major problem, but I know some people have had a real tough time learning this game. So for accessibility, I'm only going to give it an 8 out of 10, which is still perfectly respectable, but for that, it could have been a 9. But if it wasn't for that little bit of a problem with the rulebook, you know. So that brings us over to the total score, which is going to be an 8.6. So that is a perfectly respectable score, and this game is fast becoming one of my favourite games. I got a feeling it's definitely going to feature in my top 5 video later in the year. So, with all that said, I'm going to say, if you like what you see, please feel free to smash that subscribe button up there and check out another one of my videos up here. I've been Johnny, you've been watching the Hexy Beast, and most of all, stay Hexy everyone!